Welcome to the Comic Watcher Show. I'm your host, Matt Meyer. Welcome to another fantabulous episode. With me is Nicholas Osborne, as ever, and good evening to you, sir.
Hello, we are shy one more person who will probably be tuning in.
Yes, Mike is on his way. His computer decided to do updates now, so damn you, Bill Gates. It's all his fault. So today, all WandaVision all the time. We watched it. We loved it. We have thoughts. We have questions, and we're just going to kind of talk about it. So feel free to jump in, throw your 2 cents in there, your paranoid conspiracy theories, why it lived up to your expectations, why it shattered your expectations, why it sucked. Just talk to us. Anyway, first of all, though, we have some news. So, Nick, in lieu of Scoop Johnson not being here, what is the hubbub?
Yes, I'm going to do my best here to put on my press hat with a little feather and do some news announcing. Actually, just before we started the show, I actually just pushed the article myself. There was a new animated announcement. The IDW publishing series Kanto is getting adapted from Westbrook Studios, and that's Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith's company.
What?
Yeah, it looks like they optioned the rights, and they are like already in production to do an animated feature on it. So that was some pretty cool news.
So yeah, and we love Kanto on this show. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It is just the darlingest comic you've not read because not enough people are reading it. But yeah, Kanto is just one of the most flawlessly executed comics I've seen in a very, very long time. So yeah, and it's ripe for animation.
It really is, and like we've talked about it a little bit on the show, but yeah, it's still pretty early because they're just now getting into the production company side of it. So we don't know if it's coming to Netflix or Hulu or what it's doing there. But it is pretty cool that they got David Brewer and Drew Zucker, who are the co-creators, are attached on it.
Yeah,
so definitely. They're producing, so it's not like it's something that's been taken out of the hands of the creators or something. It's a pretty indie comic project that got really popular, and now I'm super excited for a lot more people to check out the story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and well, you should.
Right. And then some big Marvel and DC news. I mean, who are we if we're not going to cover that? There was the special double-sized one-shot Planet-Size X-Men that's coming from Jerry Dugan and Pepe Larraz.
It's coming up in June, and this is I like our comment there. Andretha D. Blair says, nothing to wake up early for tomorrow. Andretha, Falcon and Winter Soldier is next week. Don't worry. You'll get your rhythm back. But Planet-Size X-Men, so following up spiritually to the Giant-Size X-Men one-shots that came out last year, this is the culmination of the Hellfire Gala subplot that's been brewing for a couple of months now, predominantly in Marauders, and it promises to basically be the next big step in the ongoing Krakoa storyline in the X-Men books. What does that mean? What does it look like? Are they going to have their own planet now, not just their own island? Who knows? But it will definitely be interesting, especially with that creative team involved.
Yeah, definitely. And part of the Hellfire Gala is what we've got from the press release of 12 titles, 12 stories, all focused on a single night that'll go down in Marvel Comics history. And looks like this is going to be part of that, and this is tying into the larger, Hickman X-Men era that has been going on now. And Comic Watch has a lot of X-Men fans, and I know that the Mutant Watch team is going to be covering that pretty heavily. So definitely stay tuned for all of their thoughts on it. They're going to have a lot.
Yes. And yeah, definitely. Check out Mutant Watch for some insider baseball perspective and all that good stuff. Our sister show that regularly outstrips us in views, but we love them.
This is kind of true.
Well, I mean, no shade, obviously, because there's a built-in audience for X-Men, right? And shameless plug here. one of the things that Mutant Watch is really, really mining is the X-Men's parallels with the LGBTQ community, and just really, really taking a unique perspective that I don't really think is explored that much, podcast wise, whatever else out there. And it's just really unique. I contribute to it sometimes when and where I can, but some of the wide array of voices on that show just really do representation proud. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, Duna and Gabrielle and Travis, some of the mainstays on the show, are some of the most knowledgeable people in comics that I've ever been around, and they frequently make me feel like I need to go back and do a lot more homework before I'm able to talk with them.
Right.
But
forever learning to be a better ally, I am. And that is a good thing. Also, since we're talking about LGBTQ, Nick.
Yes, so DC had a massive announcement today. I mean, let's not even joke around with it. This is arguably the first time that either of the big two has done a special DC Pride Anthology coming up in June to celebrate Pride Month. And DC is they really did something epic with this one. They're starting off with the DC Pride Anthology that has a ton of stories that are all LGBTQIA plus characters, featuring creators that are also part of the LGBTQIA community. And that is such a huge step because, I mean, they've really gone all out here. There's a whole trade dress dedicated to it that shows not just the rainbow flag, but also, tying into Black Lives Matter and all of that. So it's really significant. I mean, there's going to be stories like Batwoman from James Tynion IV and Trung Le Nguyen, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn from Mariko Tamaki and Amy Reeder, Midnighter from Steve Orlando and Stephen Byrne. Shout out to that little duo there because they've done some cool things.
The show Steve Orlando, might I hasten to add.
It's true.
Mephisto has shown up, Nick.
Oh no.
Hey, welcome, Mephisto.
Thank you.
Now that we've got now that you got your technology working,
we have been joined by Scoop, and I guess can hang out while I fill the role of news here as best I can. Feel free to chime in.
Yeah, feel free.
My notes are in the middle of the time. So after Midnighter, you got Flash of Earth 11 from Danny Lore and Lisa Sturl, Green Lantern and Obsidian from Sam Johns and Klaus Johnson, which is like a father-son duo after Alan Scott recently came out on panel.
Woo!
Pretty cool. We've got Aqualad from Andrew Wheeler and Luciano Vecchio, Dreamer from Nicole Maines and Rachel Stott. And this is the one that a lot of people are hyped for because it is written by Nicole Maines, who plays the character on Supergirl. And that's a pretty epic step. I'm not going to lie. I mean, Jim Lee did the cover for this thing, and there's just like, you can see the character Dreamer just tucked off to the side right there, and everybody has been freaking out about it. So it's one of the ones to check out. Also have Rene Montoya from Vita Ayala and Skylar Patridge and Piper. Such a great one, right? And
look,
then
anytime Rene Montoya shows up, I'm immediately there.
Right, and then that team, Vita and Skylar, I mean, it's just going to be an easy win. And lastly, we have Pied Piper from Cena Grace, Rostein, and Ted Brandt.
Awesome. Just stellar creative teams all around.
Right, just so much. And there's going to be a ton of new covers, so all month for like Batman 109, Harley Quinn, Nightwing, Superman. We've got a ton of awesome creators to do new covers that are all Pride Month themed. And I mean, these have your iPhone wallpapers like just right there, just one after another. So it's just really cool announcement. And then along with that, there's a ton of stuff. They're doing a Crush and Lobo series that I don't think many people saw coming. And it's from Mariko Tamaki and Naopan. And it's going to be spinning out of the Teen Titans Academy. Looks like a really cool series, actually. And just, I'm hoping it doesn't get lost in the announcement because there was so much that came out. And I think it's a series people will definitely like and want to keep their eyes on.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Of course, Oh, go ahead.
There's still more. There was so much announced with this. I mean, DC's going all out for Pride Month, and this is kind of what makes it such a large step for, especially the big two, because we just haven't seen this.
Right.
We've got the couple of young adult graphic novels, I Am Not Starfire and Poison Ivy Thorns, that are going to be dropping in June and also following up in July. And they have Suicide Squad Bad Blood as well, and it's from Tom Taylor, and I can't pull up the artist's name. Give me 1 second. And it kind of came along at the tail end of that announcement. And another one of those ones that I'm worried is gonna get lost in the shuffle. But it's from Bruno. I can't read his last name. Sorry.
Is it Bruno Redondo?
Yes. There it
Hey!
is. The host comes in for the save. No, that was all of the announcements that DC just kind of dropped on everybody today, just with the huge anthology, Crush and Lobo, young adult graphic novels, all this trade dress covers, and shows maybe Marvel's a little behind in this department, and maybe they should catch up to speed, because this was something that's really cool. Okay, and moving on, we'll go to the indie side of things, and we'll kind of try to wrap up these news. Berserker, the Boom Studios series that co-created by Matt Kent and Keanu Reeves himself with Ron Garney, Bill Crabtree, and Clem Robbins, sold over 615,000 copies at the distributor level, and
Incredible.
Insane. It's going to obviously a second printing. They're doing a variant cover from Ron Garney, and it's just incredible. And honestly, like, this has been a book that I'm really surprised you don't hear more of, like, within industry chatter. We stay tuned into it pretty heavily, and with it selling so hard, and with the Kickstarter that did so well, it raised like over 1.4 million from 14,500 backers. Just a massive Kickstarter project, and the numbers are showing up really well for the first issue, and they're going back to second print, and who knows what's next for this series.
Yeah, but I mean, what a huge coup for Dark Horse too. I mean, Dark Horse just kind of quietly chugs along in their lane, right? They put out products, and they don't make a huge splash usually. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I mean, they're just like quietly, reliably, always good.
It's from Boom Studios.
Oh, it's from Boom. Well, never mind. Boom is cool too, though. Boom is really Dark Horse. Oh, because I'm reading another Matt Kent book from Dark Horse. My bad.
Bang, maybe Bang.
It was Bang.
Yeah. And but Boom has done really cool stuff. They exploded Power Rangers, just massive. It's now Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers. We've got more one-shots coming up with Andromeda, all kinds of stuff coming from them. But there's been some controversy, chatter, discussions about whether these publishers with access to resources that are coming from big-name creators should be using Kickstarter as a platform, and kind of taking away from the indie creators who are trying to get their work out, who don't have Keanu Reeves attached.
Right.
But it is something.
Or Matt Kent, for that matter.
Yeah, and like, I
to
understand
a lesser degree, but it's a known quality.
This book does. I don't think we're sitting here talking about this book today selling 615,000 plus copies if it doesn't go to Kickstarter. And I think we saw that. I was talking about it on Twitter, that the J.J. Abrams Spider-Man series. Big name Marvel put it straight through Diamond and direct market, and it sold like 150,000 copies, and then kind of went down from there. And it looks like this is a different way to approach a new market in comics, and it obviously has a path to growth. So either way you cut it, selling that many copies of comics is a good thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We will wrap the news segment up with a little bit of a sad news from the legendary Marvel artist Frank Thorne, has passed away at age 90. He passed at March 8th, and you may know him from the Red Sonja series that he got famous for pretty much, and was in the late 70s, from 77 to 79, and really took off and kind of defined a significant aesthetic for Red Sonja, and had a really successful career in comics. And there were a lot of people tweeting and showing their love for Frank Thorne, and it is something that we should keep in mind. And, these are the contributors to the industry that we all love and who helped shape it today.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that is the end of the news, though.
Hey.
Man, if only Mephisto had been around, the news would have been
Technical
way.
difficulties. Technical
God.
difficulties.
Listen, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, Beard Boy. So, WandaVision. It's wrapped. Here we go.
Yep.
Wrapped up last week. In a perfect world, we would have been here in the online talking live like 5 minutes after it was over. Our brains exploded, our synapses melted. But we do have lives, So you stuck with our commentary 6 days after the fact, and that it's okay. It's okay, internet. I promise.
And also,
But,
spoiler alerts. Like,
what?
we were the people who weren't throwing spoilers out the day that it dropped. I mean,
One of the very few, yeah. One of the very few, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is Marvel TV's first push on Disney Plus, and I guess we're gonna. I guess there's a lot of compare and contrast, at least kind of to get out the gate, with how successful this was versus the Marvel's previous television attempts, whether it was on Netflix or on ABC, and just how this worked comparatively to these other shows. Many of which people really liked. Daredevil, Luke Cage, especially got a lot of love. But this here, the big criticism against those shows is that they were almost ashamed or embarrassed or kept the MCU proper at arm's length. Daredevil was the first one out of the gate at Netflix, right? And they would always refer to the events of 2012's Avengers movie as the event or something oblique like that. It's like, well, or referring to the Hulk as the big green guy with rage issues or something like that. Just call him the Hulk, stop being coy about it. Part of the problem there was that Marvel Studios television division was so far adrift in terms of its day-to-day operations from the film side. And that, as the Netflix shows went on, I think that became more and more obvious, despite the fact that on the ABC show side, we were promised in the advertisements for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's all connected. Well, that was a big selling point. You guys remember that?
Yeah,
that was a big selling point for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was, oh man, TV and movies, synergy, woo! Not so much.
No.
Hey, we got Ghost Rider. That was worth it.
There was a Ghost Rider that they didn't have the budget to do justice for, but at least they tried. Bless their little hearts. And it just all of a sudden it takes this turn of Marvel TV, maybe changing some heads up behind showrunners, or not showrunners, but studio runners behind the scenes, and getting this thing on Disney Plus more firmly in the mouse house with Disney-sized budgets. And suddenly you've got a show that is not just firmly in the MCU, but is intrinsic and integral to the ongoing growth of the MCU. Like, you want to talk about it's all connected, it's really and truly all connected. Guys, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is with the Netflix shows, and they were good to their own degree, as you said, Matt, but it felt like, they weren't sticking to what they knew, what the formula worked. And obviously with the movies, they had a formula, they know it works, and they just kind of went away from that formula for TV. Why? If you know what works, you can take a movie and make it for TV. It's been done for years and it's been successful. So I think that's with WandaVision. I think that's where they succeeded, is where they took that pretty much that movie formula, made it into 9 they made it into 9 episodes and went it like that. Now it is truly connected.
Yeah.
So and that's a good thing. It's they stuck to what they know. They stuck to that proven formula and turned it into a TV show.
But without feeling formulaic. And
right.
I'll tell you too, you say, splicing it into episodes. I think the episode count itself is a big determining factor there, because with the exception of Defenders, all of the Marvel Netflix shows were 13 episodes no matter what. And I don't know. Somebody out there on the internet wants to correct me. That's great. But I believe that is something that Netflix specifically ordered for each show, is it's going to be 13 episodes. So they had to come up with content, and what you often, and more often than not, as the Netflix shows continued, wound up with was padding.
Right.
Like, I freaking love Luke Cage, right? But episode, what was it, 9 or 10, where they go out to the barn to fix his powers, that is an interminably long episode. And then, I mean, Iron Fist season 1 could have easily been 8 or 9 episodes, and I mean, so on and so forth. There just becomes padding in order to make an allotment of specified episodes. Right. But here's WandaVision, lean and tight, 9 episodes, and I never felt like there was any filler.
No. I mean, the only really filler, and maybe it's not filler, is there was times in episodes where I felt that you knew the big reveal, the big happening was going to be at the end. So it wasn't like you were trudging through episodes. I never felt like we had to kind of, walk through mud to get to greener grass. But it was kind of like, well, we're a quarter of the way done. All the big reveals and everything is like post credits. So we know what's going to happen at the end. Now it's just a matter of how entertained are we going to be before the end. And where it succeeded, again, is you were entertained from opening credits to the end of credits, regardless if you knew, the storylines where they were cherry picking from, like, the WandaVision comics of the 70s, or maybe there's some House of M stuff in there that you picked up on, the West Coast Avengers, but you don't even have to read comics, I think, to be entertained by WandaVision. And that's the cool thing about it, where you don't have to get all creepy and gatekeeper and stuff like that, where you can just really watch it. And who knows, maybe someone's introduced, and maybe now someone's looking up, House of M and all these, Wanda Maximoff appearances and comics and stuff. And I think that's where the Netflix issues kind of, and I hate to use the term failed, maybe not succeeded in, is bringing in outside folks that they're not into comics, and that's fine. But are you planting that seed of excitement of, hey, do I want to go and check out a collected version of Luke Cage or Daredevil? I don't think I got those from those shows on Netflix. I don't think that excitement was there.
I think I'll concur on that, because I think it was a different type of energy that the Netflix shows were going for. I think they were all vibing towards a more someone that isn't necessarily going to read the comics. Like, they were trying to tap into that side of fandom. And also, of course, incidentally, based on name alone, bring in the, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, of course. Because they're going to watch no matter what.
Right.
And that's why I think, and just by virtue of being on Netflix, of course, you're going to get more of a grown-up vibe, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
And I say that, and I think that's reductive, because WandaVision is about trauma and dealing with grief.
Huge. Yeah.
And that is not kids. It is presented in a very challenging way. Like, I loved watching the comments from people online, like in those first 3 episodes, like, "I don't get it. This is stupid." Haha, you didn't get punching.
I mean, this is also like the format of it threw people off. We're so used to being able to sit down and binge this thing, and now you're making us wait a whole week. And they want us to do water cooler speculation. Like, what is this? We are not that generation. And honestly, like, I want to go back and watch all of it again now that it's all out, so I can binge it, and I feel like I can put it together more easily. And I think it'll hold up, I think, better.
Oh, absolutely.
Than watching it week to week like this.
Well, and it's like, it's designed to be watched week to week. It's designed to be a TV show. Like, can you imagine that story as is in each episode, end to end, more or less, on the big screen? It's too small. It would not work.
No, it does well in getting us to come back, but yeah, you go watch those first couple episodes, you don't really need them. Like, they don't add a lot to the actual overarching story. They just set a context, and the premise does that. You can get that from the synopsis, and they don't work with that early enough. So all the stuff that's heavy comes at the end, and it does get really heavy. It does deal with trauma and grief, and that is the big bad. I mean, the producers have even said so. They didn't feel like they needed this villain like old Mephisto there, who everybody thought was coming in.
Right.
He's still coming. He's still coming. He's still coming. I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
It's either him or Nightmare, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought Doctor Strange was coming.
I honestly did too. And there was tons of fan speculation and fan theories out there. Oh, they're dealing with magic, so Doctor Strange is going to show up. And I mean, there's a logical reason to think that.
Well,
especially because we know IRL that Scarlet Witch's next appearance is in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Exactly. And they said that this story was directly setting up what's coming in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
And did they do that? We don't know, because they didn't tie it that directly. Whenever the Multiverse of Madness happens, we'll probably all be like, okay, now this makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And I think what Marvel does really well, right? You can sit down and view all of WandaVision and get a full, complete story, and then you can walk away knowing that this isn't the last of this, that it means something, that you watch this later on.
To be continued.
Exactly. Yeah. And
yeah, definitely.
It's definitely a strength of the series. I thought they did really well with how they approached that, and honestly, what's going to give it legs and what's going to help it stand out is the fact that it dealt so heavily with trauma and grief. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of the most important thing they did, and they didn't get lost from that. It was very much the overall purpose. And by the time we got to the last issue, spoiler alert, we see the Scarlet Witch basically in sweats and a hoodie. And they're still hairs in a messy bun, trying to figure out what's going on, and you've got Agatha all along happening, and then kind of this transformation happens, and that moment right there just epitomizes everything that the series set out to do. And it pivots the whole character into something that's really awesome. And the next time we see them on screen, all of us are going to be a lot more connected to Wanda. But I don't necessarily like what they did with Vision.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk that out.
It's mainly because it feels like a dangling plot thread.
Okay, so it's not that you don't like what they did with Vision; it's what you don't like that it was left inconclusively.
Maybe what they didn't do with Vision is
okay. I got you. Didn't really cap his story off
because how well that they accomplished Wanda's story. Vision kind of came at the cost of that because they don't really follow up on it. And they set up, there was the whole ship of Theseus analogy that like exploded. And side note, I'm so thankful Comic Watch didn't do an article explaining what the ship of Theseus is, because the whole episode was explaining what the ship of Theseus analogy is.
Cody, you dropped the ball.
I was just like, and nobody even suggested it. Best team ever.
Right.
But I think that it was a really cool setup. And it ended up turning Vision into a plot accessory for Wanda. So you get this cool ship of Theseus analogy where they're touching each other and like going through with these, like getting them to remember who Vision is. And he does. So like he gets these memories back, and then there's nothing, and then Wanda is gone with this book, and Wanda has this full story with this like beginning, middle, and heartfelt end.
Yeah.
And then I feel like we got a beginning and a middle with Vision, and then nothing.
Well,
I think there's. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
Well, I was going to say, I think I completely agree with you in that regard. Although I'll say that about midway through the series, when we find out that Vision is a product of Wanda's memories, for lack of a better term, and has been made manifest by her, you have to deal with that duality in that the real Vision is dead, and this other guy is a stand-in. He's a memory, an echo, so to speak, which makes him part of Wanda's story and Wanda's processing of grief rather than having his own arc. And that's tricky. That's tricky storytelling. Don't get me wrong. And I definitely wish that like you said, they had, I don't know, given 60 seconds to give us some kind of conclusion as to what happened there. But, we're something, a hint, a tantalizing guess. But that's okay, because that's something that we've been, like you said, that's something we've become accustomed to with the MCU, is a lot of to be continued. The main arc of Wanda Maximoff has its beginning, middle, and end throughout the show, and to me that is satisfying. Mike, what were you going to say?
No, I was just you kind of took the words right out of my mouth, because I mean, I know, and I've seen some comments online pretty much echoing what Nick was saying, but, Vision was there, but he wasn't there,
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember the timeline correct, I think we're about 3 weeks, a few weeks, maybe to a month out after Endgame when all this stuff. So all this, everything that, Wanda has went through and the whole world has went through is still very fresh, So with Wanda going to Westview and starting up pretty much her own safe reality, so she can kind of block out what she's went through. I thought it was fine. I don't know if I needed more Vision necessarily. I needed more, Agatha. I needed more Scarlet Witch. I needed more of that story. Leading up, especially the end of episode 9. When she's in her astral projectile self and she hears, Wicca and Speed, I mean, that's another thing, who is it? Is it Mephisto? Is it me? Am I Mephisto? Who knows? Is it her? I think Cody said it. I think we were talking earlier in chat, and Cody said something. Well, maybe it's her power that she's kind of discovering, and her power is kind of more powerful than she is. And realistically, the show may be named WandaVision, but realistically, I think the show is mainly about Wanda, how she's dealing with her her grief.
Wanda's vision.
Yeah. And John Torrey Jr. on Facebook, Vision was the vehicle to give Wanda the depth we needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a better way of what I said in calling him a plot device. It gives him a little bit more substance, because he really does serve as that vehicle to get Wanda through these stages. And we really see that at the end when they put the kids to bed and there's that super emotional moment as the wave is coming and they have to kind of say their not really goodbyes because they've kind of already done this, and then they said hello again, so they settle on the fact that there's probably going to be another hello. And that ties into what we know from the Marvel universe and us being like, this isn't the end of this character. It's not like we'll never see them again.
Right.
It's just a matter of how and when. And I think that was such a subtle and beautiful nod to their whole process and approach to storytelling on the Marvel Cinematic Universe side of things. And one of the better moments of the series.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, unlike Scarlet Witch, we don't know where Vision is showing up again.
I mean, where did he even go?
Yeah.
Like
He's just kind of gone.
Yeah.
he just because like they settled everything, and then the troops come in, like a sword comes in, and they figure out like I said, the red wave comes, the kids are gone, the projected vision is gone, and we're kind of back where there's just this empty outline of a home in some neighborhood, and they don't do
Yeah.
anything with it, like all white vision, who I guess just wandered off after the runes dropped and everything happened. I guess was just like straight dipped out of there.
Yeah, I just wanted to go get a
He had to
sandwich
go
or something.
ponder the ship of
Yeah.
Theseus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go do that.
obviously.
I mean, from what we can tell, though,
Yeah.
he is basically got all of his original form's memories, except for what was experienced in Westview, because that wasn't him.
Mhm.
So, whenever they do eventually meet again, there's going to be this big emotional gap because she's experienced something that he hasn't, and she
Yeah.
has the memories of it, but he doesn't have.
I
So
don't
that's
remember them
something to
showing
look
like
forward
that
to.
stopping point because
That's
like he's still gonna
tragic.
he's still gonna be in love with her
Right.
because
Yeah.
there are all those memories of their relationship and like when she was locked in the tower and all that stuff. But like I don't remember the stopping point of like creating that gap when he gave him the memories. That it was like right when this whole thing started with the projected version of Vision, but it I don't know, it just put it in an odd spot. And we had two ending scenes. Well, Marvel doubling up on them now, and I was like, really, neither of them dealt with Vision. Like,
we had set up for both Captain Marvel 2 and presumably Secret Invasion, which we got to get to Monica Rambeau here in a second, but
yeah,
we'll get there because talk about a breakout role.
right.
Second, though, and then we had, of course, the lead, the Book of Darkhold, which is definitely a little bit of a deep cut for some of us fans of a particular vintage. And, of course, that lead in for Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
So, hey. And can I just say how friggin' awesome her Scarlet Witch costume looks?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, damn, that looked good.
Absolutely. And the same colors as Magneto.
Yes.
And,
somebody pointed that out.
I saw somebody on Twitter said her hair was teased by the gods, and now I can't stop thinking about it because it was just so perfect. Like, I think everything about the whole design on that was just like such a win and such a payoff moment to a visualization from her being in the sweats and hoodie to like this awesome badass outfit costume.
Yeah. They got the headpiece right. Yes.
Although I kind of like when she had like the projected version that like I was kind of hoping they would stick with
dark
that,
mystic chaos magic crown. Yeah.
But what they did was really cool, so I was so happy with it.
Definitely. But we certainly had some breakout roles and characters on the show too, and I mean, everybody's talking about Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau. That she was awesome and just owned every scene she was in.
Yeah,
I didn't really try. I mean, there wasn't anything like ostentatious about her performance or anything like that that would, scenery chewing that would suck the energy towards her. She's just good.
Yeah, I think the way she handled that role was just so evenly keeled. I mean, it was like, even on, like, if you go back and you do your rewatches, and before before everything kind of opened up, I mean, she was just so even keeled. She was just like just going with everything, and the way they wrote her character and the way she portrayed the character was just phenomenal. I hope that they bring her in to the MCU, like they don't do a recasting or something like that.
They'd be foolish too.
Horrible. But yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, such a breakout role, and actually, really, I mean, outside of and I can't remember her real name. We'll say, Agatha. Outside of Agatha.
Oh, Catherine Hahn.
Thank you. Outside of Catherine Hahn, she was, the gem of this series. Obviously, set aside, Wanda and everything, but seeing Monica on screen was really cool, and she played it to the T. Perfect casting.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
There's the bit there where she has to talk about her astrophysicist friend, and everybody online was like, "Oh my god, of course it's Reed Richards," and it wasn't.
So disappointing.
So, look, internet, listen to me. They are not going to introduce Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four on a TV show. It's just not happening. Okay. And if I have to eat my words within the next 2 to 3 years, then I will. But I'm just telling you, Marvel is smart enough to know what a big deal it is when they eventually introduce the Fantastic Four into the universe. Yeah, sorry. And if it's John Krasinski, cool. I'd be down for that. Just putting that out there.
Yes.
Little fan casting.
Yep.
There you go.
Emily Blunt, John Krasinski is right there. Come on.
It's The Quiet Place Part 3, y'all. Only there is space.
I'd like to come back to the Agatha that Scoop was talking about.
Yes.
Mephisto, whatever. The breakout for me, I think, was the song.
Monsters-esque song.
Yeah, dude. It ended up debuting at #1 on the iTunes soundtrack chart and
really
36 on the Billboard chart with 3,000 downloads. People dug the song. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. And it was a great moment. I mean, one, it was a great reveal.
Yeah.
Legit, well earned. And two, yeah, just the way they did it with that bouncy Monsters-esque theme song, and just awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. All of these characters that they did, and John Toy Jr. saying on Facebook with Monica Rambeau, and I guess who were getting his photon. Solid performance. I liked how she grimaced every time Captain Marvel was mentioned. There was that feeling, that connection that they tapped into. Obviously, that we know this character, and the audience is in on something that nobody else was around, or that nobody else was in on, and that was a really cool moment, and something that also lends to the notion that they're not done with this character. That
no, they've struck gold and they know it.
Yep. And also striking gold was Jimmy Woo from Randall Park, right?
Dude, I want the Agents of Atlas show so bad now.
Yeah.
And the whole time that he and Darcy and Photon are breaking away and they're doing their own thing, in my mind I'm like, this is gonna be Agents of Atlas. This is what they're building to. This is a surprise thing. Hasn't happened yet. Fingers crossed it will, because they've got. Just do it. Give me Gorilla Man.
They're so close.
I know. So close, but yeah, Jimmy Woo, always a treat. Always a treat. He's so great in that role, and he mastered the card trick that Scott Lang was teaching him.
He really wanted to know, and
this is what he did for 5 years.
Like you said, it's all connected, and now we really know it's connected. It's really connected. They did it.
This poor sad bastard just worked on the card trick for 5 years because there was nothing else to do. Half the humanity is gone, half the crime is gone.
You got to do something with your time, I guess.
That's right. That is very
right. Man learned it because he was stuck inside the home. That's what you do.
I wonder if Jimmy Woo can post on Reddit. I don't know about that.
Now, for everything the show got right, and I mean it got 95% of what it did right. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a solid A of a show for me. There's a few things that it didn't quite land, and I think the elephant in the room is Pietro, as the internet has come to take him. That was kind of Lucy with the football.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we all lost our collective minds when Evan Peters showed up. It's like, what? There's a mutant running around.
Yeah.
Mutants in the MCU. Mutants in the MCU. What? And then it wasn't. It was a guy with the last. It was so that we could have a boner joke.
Yeah.
It was Ralph Boner, and don't get me started on MCU pulling the rug out from us on that one and then slipping that name in.
That was
the greatest troll ever belongs to Marvel, and
that was a troll.
It's beautiful.
There's no way that wasn't like on purpose.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're totally fucking with us. Excuse my language.
They knew it, and because they knew what was going to happen on social media in that week-long, cooler speculation talk on what's happening with. Finally, we're getting in. So when the deal was signed and the X-Men came over from Sony and Kevin Feige's all, this is so cool that we can play with these toys now. Fox, sorry, not Sony. They're still dealing with the Spidey universe. He said it's so cool that we can finally play with these toys and like see what we can do with the Marvel universe. And this is the first time they pop up. Like this is how they play with the X-Men toys.
Yeah, Ralph.
So they can make a boner joke.
Yeah, but I mean, really though, the fact that they went there and did it because they had every reason to just play it safe and bring in the actor that we knew if they were gonna do it. I mean, they didn't even have to do that, and it still would have been an A+ of a show.
Yeah.
But the fact that they went for it, and I mean, kudos to them for trying. I just feel like, man, that way though.
Well, and I think also there. I mean, that's just one of the few instances I think where the show generated so much online social media hype that they didn't have to advertise anything. I mean, once they broke out and they started drumming all this buzz, advertising took care of itself. They didn't even have to do anything. All they just had to say was, Thursday, afternoon, throw out some random tweet post going, oh, hey, WandaVision Friday sometime, I don't know, check your local listings. And millions were tuning in. And it was like, there was always some type of hashtag and there was always some type of post. There was always some type of speculation. Something every episode was happening. And it seemed like every episode had something that they were almost pulling that they could almost
definitely
gather people,
and they did it expertly.
That was brilliant marketing on their end.
Oh yeah. Definitely. So I mean, like for 9 weeks, every Friday, have you seen WandaVision yet? Stay off social media. Don't get on social media. You like buzz like that doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
No.
And I mean, all hats off to everyone at Marvel Studios that had a hand in figuring out how to do this. I mean, God, if they do this with WandaVision, what are they going to do with the rest of their shows? You know? Yeah. We'll get to the future shows that are coming out, next. But I mean, right now, the quality of this show and just knowing what's coming down the pike this year with their other shows, I'm honestly more excited for the shows that are coming up than the movies.
Right.
The next year. I'm sure Black Widow and Eternals are going to be fine. I'm sure they're going to be good movies. But I mean, I want Loki.
Right.
You know what I mean? And next year She-Hulk and Moon Knight, and Christmas time freaking Ms. Marvel, and I mean, the sky's just the limit with the shows.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I think it really ties into a side of Disney. I think before the pandemic, even they had talked about how they were investing heavily into streaming because they could see the direction of entertainment going that way. And I don't think that's to say that films are going to be taken less seriously, but I think they're just kind of evolving on what we've pretty much described since like before Breaking Bad and all that. It's like the golden age of television and how you can have that level of production that you'd expect at the theater just by turning on Disney Plus. And they're really showing that they can pull that off and do it really well.
Well, you already see flexibility too. Like going back to what I was originally saying about the 13 episode fealty of the Netflix shows and how that ultimately hurt them. You know, you got 9 episodes of WandaVision, 6 episodes for Falcon and Winter Soldier. You know, they're already showing that adaptability to make the format match the story's needs and not try to force the opposite.
Right? Because, I mean, with a series, we're always like, okay, what's going to happen next season? And then you get to the last episode of this, and it says series finale. There's not going to be a second season. It doesn't warrant it. And it's a totally different, as like, even though we didn't get the Netflix format that you can binge it all, it still is a unique format because they're exploring something that's been built for so long within something that we're not really used to in a bunch of these one-shot style TV series. And
well, that, and I'm here to tell you that if they're going to use the TV show format as a bridge to movies and maybe tie up a loose ends or maybe introduce someone like Monica Rambeau to where they can throw her into the MCU, then I'm here for it, because I will sit through 6 episodes, 9 episodes, like you said, Nick, to where something is tailored to the story. We want to tell a story, and then we want to not tell it, and then we just want to go on and make a movie and bring in like little hints or whatever we got. That's brilliant, because people will watch that all day. I know, comic nerds will watch it all day and moan and groan about something because, Mephisto didn't show up yet. Season 2, they say it's a
we just said there won't be a season 2.
No, I'm not believing it. But anyway, Mephisto, second season. But yeah, no. But
he's going to show up in the Eternals movie. Don't you know anything?
Just roll it over.
But no, honestly, I think if this is like the future where they're just going to use these TV shows to bridge, it's marvelous. It's marvelous an idea.
And I'd like to throw out one little thing that it's been in the back of my head before. I know we're closing in on an hour here. A lot of times with comics, when something comes out, like a new #1, like maybe it's introduced, it's spinning out of Avengers, and you've got Scarlet Witch and Vision. An aspect that we would probably touch on in our reviews would be, is this new reader friendly? Do you think the WandaVision series is is friendly for somebody who has never interacted with the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I think it can be, and I only say it can be because I think, going back to what I said earlier, is that I think it does good at planting seeds for that person that's a non-comic reader to go out and go, well, where does she get? Okay, maybe I find out she bends a lot of reality and does everything in House of M. Oh, wow, let me read House of M. Or maybe maybe the person hears where White Vision first appeared, West Coast Avengers. Maybe they go out and pick up some West Coast Avenger books. So I think there might be some hesitation from somebody to go, well, what happened here? What happened here? Maybe do a little bit of research, but also I think it does, like I said before, it does plant a good seed for that person to go out and kind of start fishing some ideas on the internet about where to find these stories. I think it does. I think it does a good job of that.
I think, and I agree with all that. I think, and this is hard for us as fans who know the lore to be objective about, right? Because we know what to expect more or less.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a decade.
At least. Shut up. Well, keep your age jokes to yourself, millennial.
I mean, we can go back to Blade, I guess, but
no. The first 3 episodes, I think, do enough of a Twin Peaksing with the what the hell is going on aspect. And to keep people engaged long enough to get to episode 4, which, as engaging as it is objectively speaking, a big ass exposition dump as to what's going on. And from there's enough contextualization that you can put everything else together.
Sure. Yeah,
so I believe you could show this show to somebody that has never watched any Marvel movies, never read a comic book, and they would be able to sit down and piece it together. And that is just a huge credit to the showrunners, the writers, and the directors, and of course the actors.
I love that point, because I just said it kind of at the beginning of the show, that maybe the first few episodes were the weakest because they weren't really necessary. but man, they are really necessary from the perspective of somebody who doesn't know the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah,
I like that.
So, and I mean, they're just really well done, you know?
Yeah.
In and of themselves, they're great homages to the TV shows of a particular era.
And it got like every era too. I eventually felt welcome to the party when they did the Modern Family spoof.
Right?
I have a connection to what they're doing outside of like this historical context to it. And that was so cool.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Like the Malcolm in the Middle riff was so flawlessly done. All it was lacking was Bryan Cranston. They're you know, I feel like, you know, as we got to the last two episodes and the surreality of everything was, you know, we got through it. We know what's going on. It's been Agatha all along, you know, and it becomes more traditional superheroes. It's still good, but it can't help but suffer by comparison because what comes before it is so utterly unique. Yeah. That's not to say that the latter two episodes are bad, but they're so straightforward comparatively that it's like you're almost expecting some weird David Lynchian you know, skull fuck in the last two episodes to just really mess with your head. And we didn't quite get that, but that's okay because this is the MCU, so we still have certain rules that we play by. And you know, you're gonna have a big showdown between the good guy and the bad guy at the end, and that Wanda versus Agatha showdown, you know, good stuff.
Yeah,
especially for the small screen.
Oh, for sure.
The introduction kind of got us primed for this mystery, and then by the time we got to the mystery, we're at the last two episodes, and we kind of know everything that's going on. So I think maybe that played into us wanting something like Mephisto or Doctor Strange or some type of X-Men connection, because it was such a mystery, and for a few weeks we all kind of harped on that mystery. And then it transitions into this more superhero punch 'em up story, and Marvel does that really well, so there's no complaints there.
Yeah, none whatsoever. I mean, the hot Vision on Vision action, very well done, even without the philosophy.
Shit, that was amazing.
Clark sees it.
Yeah, you're gonna see that clip come up on
one was definitely a sub and the other was a dom. I don't know what to tell you.
Here we go.
Oh my God. That was quality.
I'm mad that I got left out of that supercut a couple of weeks ago because I wasn't feeling well. That was like my supercut moment. No, not really. That's just me, which might be even scarier. I mean, guys, you know, we're about to hit our hour, and I think we've basically hit the high points. I definitely want to say props to all the writers for surprising the hell out of me by bringing Kat Dennings Darcy back. A, I never expected to see her again, and B, I actually cared about her. Like, she wasn't just some cheap jack sidekick with running gags and one-liners. I care about Darcy. What just happened? Thank you for remembering she exists. And now we're getting Natalie Portman back in the next Thor movie. And Sif. It's like Marvel suddenly realized the first two Thor movies happened. You know? And I'm cool with that.
Say, huh?
Right? But you know, this show was just absolutely incredible. I mean, even the very slight misfires that we could nitpick at. I mean, Emma Caulfield's character, Dottie, being a big red herring is certainly one of them. But I don't care, to be honest with you, because the things it does right succeeds on such a level that those little nitpicks are just stupid.
Right.
I'm sorry.
You don't even want to entertain the nitpicks.
They're pointless. Like, why are you just picking at this?
Right.
I'm sort of reminded of the guy that used to run my LCS, his name's Will. And about the time The Dark Knight came out, everyone's talking about The Dark Knight. Oh my God, it's so incredible. I mean, you just can't say a bad thing about The Dark Knight. And so I'm talking to him one day about it, and he's like, yeah, I didn't like it. And I'm just taken aback. And I'm like, what in the world didn't you like? He's like, well, Two-Face was there, and then they just killed him off. They could have done so much more with him. And I'm like, you're right. They could have, but they didn't. And it's still an amazing film. Like, this is what I want to say to the people that are nitpicking WandaVision. Is it's just like, get over it, guys. I mean,
it's still amazing.
Yes, It's still amazing. And guess what? In another 8 days, Falcon and Winter Soldier with Baron Zemo with a purple mask. Like, woo!
Yeah, I'm here for that.
We're going to get a MODOK. Can we get a MODOK?
If we get MODOK, I will personally do a dance on here.
Dude, y'all
really close.
We're gonna do the truffle shuffle.
Yes,
okay.
I'll do the truffle shuffle.
No,
I will do the truffle shuffle with you. I'm that down. If we get a CGI MODOK.
Yes.
There is a MODOK series happening from Patton Oswalt on Hulu.
Yes, and it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be stop motion, and I'm going to enjoy every
hilarious
second of it. But I need MODOK in the MCU, floating around, a big head in a chair with little flappy arms, like he's a mobile CeeLo Green, and fighting Falcon.
Yes,
that's what I want from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, if that's the big reveal, is MODOK, and then, we'll be back to talk about that show after it's done, and then we'll be ready to talk about Loki after that,
and possibly doing a truffle shuffle.
Possibly doing the truffle shuffle, Mike. Make sure that you're good and shaved up for maximum chunk.
Nope. Nope. Coming in full Sasquatch.
All right, I'm right there. All right, buddy, I'm with you on that. Next week, I guess that's it. Thank you all so much for listening. We've hit our hour mark and then some, because we're just having such a good time. We love having our guests. We really and truly do. It's always our honor to just get to hang out with industry legends and up and comers and make new friends and be able to legit say, my night last night was hanging out with Mark Waid for an hour and things like that. But every now and again, it's nice to just have an episode where we can shoot the shit and chill and talk about things that we love without that pressure of being on. And I just love this episode so much. And next week, we get to be on again because we've got up and coming writer Tim Sheridan joining us. He's going to be writing the Teen Titans Academy book. Wrote Future State, Teen Titans. Very excellent read. It's going to be very exciting. So thank you all for listening. Please support your local comic shop. Read something, and above all, be kind to each other. Thank you so much for listening. Get all your news and pro reviews from comic-watch.com.